Hey everyone. Wow. What's up? Hi Amanda. Hi Ami. Devin, Sue. Oh my God, I missed you guys. Hi Kate. Hi Sheila. Anuchka, Cami, Kiska, Disa, Allison. Hi you guys. Okay. We're gonna jump right in. We'll start with a grounding practice and then we'll move into like housekeeping, what we're getting into today, and then the content. So go ahead and take a moment and just bring your awareness away from the Zoom screen. So away from the faces, if that means turning the screen or just pulling your energy away from the screen. Go ahead and take a moment and start to orient into your space. So looking over your right shoulder, noticing how your system lands here, looking back to center and then over the left. And just noticing where your body is in space. Begin to orient now your awareness from your space towards the container of your body, first getting curious about your body's relationship to gravity. What does it feel like to be held in your chair? Getting curious about the periphery of your body, so where your skin meets your clothes, your hair, the air, the chair that you're sitting in. And then maybe getting curious about what is happening within the container of the body. And if there's any places that feel like they are calling for attention or need tending, go ahead and take a moment and just bring your hands over those places, almost like you're reinforcing this structure of your body. And take a moment and find the right amount of pressure, the right amount of touch, and really imagining that your hands are the most loving hands and most loving touch in the world. Feeling the sensation of the weight and the heat of your hands. And just allowing yourself a moment to take in that support. Then, when you're ready, starting to slowly orient back into the space. Any movements, yawn, stretching that comes forward, go ahead and take a moment with that. And then, when you're ready, take a moment to orient towards the screen, looking at the faces, pictures, and noticing how it lands even in your body to orient towards connection now. All right. So I'm going to start with a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the content. So my name is Kallie. I don't know where she is on your guys' screen, but this is Amanda. It says Amanda Lee Assistant. So she's going to be assisting us today with Zoom, what is it called? Logistics, tech stuff. So if you need anything throughout the session, you can send her a direct message, and she'll be helping us out today. Yeah. All right. So today's workshop is called Stop Burning Your Own Witch. And it's really about how can we integrate with compassion and kindness these parts of ourselves that we put at the stake and burn ourselves, or maybe we burn them with other people. But these parts that we consider bad or we have shame around. So we're going to be working a lot with this idea of shame today. So just as we move through the content, just like any day, notice how it lands for you in your body. That gives a lot of information. If you need to take a moment the great thing about Zoom is that it's, first of all, recorded. So you can come back to this on my YouTube and podcast after. And you can turn the screen away. You can walk out of the room for a moment. You can turn off your video if you want to not be on video for a moment. So just really using the experience of being in this Zoom session as a practice in itself and just getting curious about what's happening for me in my body and what do I need to support my body in this experience of receiving information. Okay. Okay. So we're going to start to explore the somatic experience of shame. So even as I say shame, what comes up for you? What do you notice happening in and around your body with your thoughts, images, etc.? Go ahead and take a moment to reflect on this and then go ahead and put it in the chat, and Amanda's going to share what is in the chat. And you can always message her, not anonymously, but you can direct message her if you want her to read something anonymously as well throughout the entirety of the workshop. So how does shame feel in your body?
So Tiara says, my body shrinks and gets really small. Amy says, smallness, anxiety, wanting to hide. Tightness in chest, Disa says. Kate, I feel it in my heart and throat as though it just wants to be free. Allison, tightness in the throat, tension in my body. Sheila, tightness in throat and chest. Devin, I started twiddling my thumbs and kind of got a nervous smile. Amanda says tense and anxious. And Devin says feel it in the throat and jaw.
Great. Okay, beautiful. So much information. So go ahead and take a moment and just notice that. So we have a lot of observations. I love when people share because it shows the unique range of experiences on something. There's usually patterns, but so just taking a moment and noticing the range of experience of this experience of shame. And then let's take a moment and just put that on the shelf. So, like putting that to the side for a moment, that experience, and just letting your body know, okay, great, thank you for the information. Let's put it to the side, maybe orienting back into the space, shaking it off, doing whatever you have to do here to kind of be like, great, thank you. And I don't need that feeling right in this moment. Okay. So, a little bit of education around shame. So, shame is ideally used in the short term for social shaping. So if we think of like a actual supportive way for shame to be used, it would be in short-term shaping. So if you think about in cultural context or um, when you're growing up and you are in church and you start screaming in church or in the library, you might have people go, shh, no. And there might be some shame. However, it's meant to be a short-term experience that is used then for social shaping. When it becomes chronic, it can be a very different experience, to say the least. And I think we also see this. We're not going to go into this today, but I just want to mention it because I do think it's important. I think chronic shaming is something that I've seen and experienced personally a lot in religious contexts. So I just want to drop that in there as well. We're not going to go into that. So I have this written in my notes as overcouplings around shame, but I don't even think this is an overcoupling. But this idea that if I'm being shamed for something, what does that mean? It means rejection. It means social Amanda, help. Ostrac,
Ostracization?
ostracization. Thank you. It means social ostracization, even with that. You get what I'm trying to say. You're gonna be cast out of the tribe. I'm running a group right now with Parvati Shallow, who's on Survivor, and she talks a lot about this, how Survivor really recreates these tribal settings. It gets people in this survival mode because they're depleted of food, resources, comfort. And so when they get cast out of the tribe, if you're not familiar with the show Survivor, they vote people out. So it's literally getting cast out of the tribe. It creates really big responses and reactions from people because it's this very core human experience and fear of if I'm cast out, if I'm on my own, I'm gonna die. And so, shame for us, I don't even think this is an overcoupling. I think it's a very direct linking between being shamed and being cast out, being ostracized. And what are the stakes of that? They're really high. And so, as I say this, as I am introducing this idea around like the stakes around shame, the short term, what it's meant for, what happens, the fear around it, that's programmed into our nervous system from, these tribal times. What is coming up for you? How is this landing for you guys? And you can put it in the chat. Ostracize. Nope. Just not a
I
word that
looked it up. It is ostracization.
ostracization. Thank you.
We were close.
Close. So, what is coming up as I'm describing this? You can explore sensations that you're feeling. Is there an expansion happening of, oh, I've experienced this, I relate to this, a contraction.
So Liz says, I'm personally just being brought back to the times that I felt shame. Are you wanting like the somatics, Callie?
Yeah, just whatever's coming up. Like if you guys are having a somatic experience and can identify that, that would be great. And any thoughts or words, images coming forward.
So Disa says, shame is coming up and the relation to not feeling good enough or not living up to others or my own standards. I'm feeling shame about feeling shame. Totally. I'm experiencing myself wanting to dissociate from the emotion entirely. I feel heaviness, it's hard to let go and move on. This really feels like it makes sense, like literally scared of being cast out, not fitting in anymore. It explains this panic.
Great. Okay, let's pause there. Yeah, awesome. Amanda's so funny feeling shame about feeling shame. We can just layer it on, huh? Can go on forever. So now we're gonna explore the somatic experience of shame, which we kind of touched on a bit. So what happens in the body? What is the body's experience of shame? So oftentimes, and I don't want to use blanket statements. So just take this as, a generalization because everyone is very unique. But a lot of what was described in the chat was tension and tightness. And so what we're describing there is this um, element of a freeze that happens. So in freeze state, there's a clenching that happens where it's kind of a two-part. Freeze is really special like that, where we have activation, where we're feeling activation in the body, and there's this dampening response that comes in and goes, don't talk, don't move, don't whatever. And so a lot of times shame is experienced as this freeze. So if you think about us having shame in response to, like for example, growing up, I was taught in the Christian church that I grew up in that being angry was really not something to be proud of. It wasn't very moral. It's not it's not something you are proud of. And so when I would experience anger, I would feel not only the charge of anger, which is like a very sympathetic, upwards, high energy response. I would feel that charge and then I would feel that shame coming in. So I'm feeling two things now. I'm feeling the original feeling of anger and now I'm feeling shame and the dampening effects. And I'm feeling the tension in my body, I'm feeling the clenching. And so there's a lot of clenching around shame, kind of like I'm trying to keep something contained because God forbid this anger gets out, because then what's going to happen if I am angry? I'm going to be, you know, reprimanded, cast away, whatever my body anticipates will happen. I'm going to quickly reference my notes. Okay. How many of you are familiar? I promise this links back to the topic, but how many are of you are familiar with pain science? Beautiful. Okay. So pain science is really interesting because what happens when the body experiences pain is that it creates tension around the pain to protect it. So, what this used to happen a lot, I had really chronic neck pain. I would feel my pain in my neck, and what would happen? The musculature, the tissues, everything around my jaw, my neck, my shoulders to protect. So, there's this tightness, this tension, this protection that happens. The thing about pain science that's kind of like fun and horrible is that that tension actually creates more inflammation and it creates more pain. Yeah. So it's this cycle. And so that's what happens with shame as well. So we feel the original thing, the anger. We have the body go, "Oh, this is not safe to feel. Let me contain it." And then this creates even more pressure. So we're creating this container that's a high pressure container, and it's creating this cycle of inflammation of in the body, inflammation, pain, tension, that then cycles into more pain, which then cycles into more tension. And so very counterintuitively, the solution for pain science is when you feel the pain in the, like, I'm talking physically right now, pain in my neck. There's a whole book about this called The Way Out. It's written by a neurosurgeon. It's really good if you experience chronic pain. So I feel the pain, my body, right? Because it's unconscious, my body goes to protect me by creating tension. And the solution, the way out, is to actually tell the body, hey, I'm safe. Basically, thank you, Amanda, making friends with the pain, as weird as it sounds, in this book, they literally talk about how can you be like, hey, pain, like, I know you. Nice to see you again. Like, how can you invite the pain in, be like, okay, like, well, I wasn't expecting you to show up at my door, but come on in, let's have some tea. And how can we soften around the pain? And then it stops this cycle, this pain inflammation cycle. And what I've found, because I really relate to things in the body because it's very physical and real to me, that cycle to me feels very similar to this way that we relate to our bad parts that we have shame around. So if I experience a bad part, a part that I don't relate kindly to come up, and I feel that initial, totally unconscious, totally reflexive reaction to, I can't have this part of me be seen. It's going to make me unlovable. People are going to see it and not like it. I'm going to get in trouble. What happens then? We create a container around that. We create the tension. We create more pressure. These parts of us are really don't take kindly to being shoved away. I don't think anyone does. Anyone in the whole world take kindly to being shoved away. It creates more tension. And then we're in this cycle where this part is getting louder and we're pressing more. And then it does create physical tension in the body. And we feel this. We'll perhaps experience it later when we do the experiential. But we notice it in session with parts work and doing this work, even sensationally relating to these sensations kindly and inviting them in instead of casting them out. So, how is this landing for you guys? I'm going to take a brief look at my notes. Oh, one last bit, yes. So, in IFS, um, which I highly recommend. There's a book called No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. Amazing. He's the creator of IFS, Internal Family Systems. He created this work, parts work. It's so incredible. And the name alone, I think, is so impactful. No bad parts. But he talks about how these parts of ourselves get fragmented and exiled. So not only are we not relating kindly, but we're really locking them away and shoving them away. And I think what happens in us somatically is this feeling of the tension of the activation, the suppression, and then the kind of the battle between the two. So let's pause right there and just check in with how this is landing. Is this making sense? Is this feel expansive? Does it feel uh, just what's coming up? Thank you, Amanda.
Do you want me to read them?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
We've got, yes, this makes a lot of sense. It makes me want to explore the shameful parts rather than running away from and hiding them. Makes me think of when you say something wrong and then you feel yourself start to blush and then you tell yourself, no, don't blush, and then you start blushing more. Makes sense. It's hard to see all parts as useful though. It helps to look at pain as not just an annoying or bothersome sensation, but having a purpose.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Okay, now we'll move into the next bit. And actually, let's do a little pause here because this is like a lot of information and I don't have visuals today. So, 1 minute pause just to check in and see if your body needs anything. Like, if you sometimes when I'm on video on Zoom as a participant, I get stuck in this. So I'm like, just remember that you can like leave, you can move your neck, you can scowl. If you need some water, if you want to use a restroom, like a little pit stop just to check in. Like release the Zoom face. Okay. So, we're gonna now move forward into this kind of what is the antidote to shame? So, the antidote to shame in this workshop, at least, is compassion and curiosity towards these parts. They say, I don't know exactly what it is. Amanda, maybe you can help me with this. It's you can't feel fear and curiosity at the same time. Is that it? Okay. You can't feel fear and curiosity at the same time, which I feel like I felt both at the same time. But the idea is that if you're curious, you're in a nervous system state that allows you to be connected to yourself, other, and your environment. And so, how can I start to bring in curiosity and compassion towards these parts of myself um, that I or other people have labeled bad or negative. Um, like
Anxiety.
I said, go
I'm sorry.
ahead, tell me.
I'm like, maybe it's anxiety.
Is it
Oh, it's just hitting, I'm having a light bulb moment. But like fear and anxiety are
anxiety,
like the same thing.
anxiety and curiosity at the same time?
I think that's what I think, yeah.
That sounds more right because I'm like, I've definitely been scared and curious. Maybe anxiety. Either or, you get the idea. Thank you. Um, so I have in my notes here, you can't really be shamed for something that you are not ashamed of, that you've integrated. Like, for example, if you call me a bitch when I'm PMSing, I'm like, tell me something I don't know. Like, I know. I tell people, hey, I'm PMSing. I'm very bitchy during this time. Um, so even just noticing what that means for you of like, what would that mean if I integrated these parts and couldn't be shamed. Like I mentioned, Parvati Shallow, she is a huge role model for me. She was on Survivor. She was hated for being a really powerful female player, and she has really um, gotten to the point where, I mean, nobody's immune, but to the point where when someone talks crap on her, she's like, okay. Like it doesn't hit the same. Whereas if you think about when someone hits that point that is already soft with shame, it hurts so much more. Um, all right, so we're going to now, actually, I'm just going to take a moment and read my notes. Okay, great. So we're going to now practice this somatic parts work meditation. So you can do just somatic work and just parts work. I like to combine them. I think it's really beautiful because parts work is just, I really recommend reading that book. If any of this resonates with you, that book is incredible. Um, so we're gonna do that right now. So as you start to, we're gonna move towards something that feels a little sensitive. So even thinking like, what is a part of me that I'm kind of ashamed of? Is it that I get angry? Is it that I'm sensitive? That's something for me. I'm really sensitive. Is it okay to be sensitive? Is it okay to have that? Maybe I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's that hard to come up with these because we have them locked and loaded. So just noticing what the first thing is that comes up for you. And as you think about this part of you that maybe you've experienced be shamed from others, or maybe you've done it to yourself, what happens in your body? So we want to find the quote. It's called a trailhead. So where is the start of this? Like, is it a tightness in the chest? Is it a contraction in the solar plexus? And we might feel multiple sensations at the same time. I have my hand over my chest and my belly. So, okay, I feel more than one thing happening. Great. What feels like the epicenter? And go ahead and just notice where that is on your body. And go ahead and bring a hand or hands over that or a pillow. If you have a pillow, that's the best case scenario over this part of you. And can you just take a moment? Let's take a moment to just arrive with this part. And then can you find the periphery of where you contract around this? So going back to that idea of pain science, of like, I gotta keep it small, I gotta, create this container. Can you feel the periphery of that container in your body, in or around your body? And if so, what does it feel like? And how does that original sensation respond to being contained? So can you take a moment now and what would it be like to soften around this part, creating more space for it? Just noticing what happens if there's movements, a breath, an exhale, a yawn. And maybe even giving it more space. You can imagine the body gets bigger, can be as big as your room, as big as your city. Really giving this sensation space. And can you take a moment and just once again, we have the hands on this part, just feeling into the loving touch of the hands, extending this loving touch to this ache. And can you access that sense of curiosity and compassion? Can you find it within yourself? And if you have trouble relating to this part in that way, that's totally okay. Can you think of a person where this curiosity and compassion comes very easy? And then extend even a little bit of that to this part. If it feels true to you to say, of course you're feeling what you're feeling to this part. Of course you're feeling what you're feeling. A lot of times these parts are very protective. Maybe even taking a moment to just thank this part for trying to protect you. And then extending any other validation or any other care or needs or tending to that this part wants. And as you sit here and you're moving towards this part, we're giving it space and we're not moving away or pushing it away. Just allow yourself and your system to take that in for a moment. Whatever feels like the most important part to you in this, can you allow your system just a moment to take that in? And then when you're ready, start to bring your awareness back to the periphery of the body. So just noticing I'm sitting in a chair, maybe blinking the eyes open, looking around the space. and just noticing any shift. Maybe so, maybe not. And then taking a moment to reflect or journal, if you have a journal and a notebook, on what came up for you. What does it feel like to move towards instead of away? And what does it feel like to soften and make space? And I like to use this visual of like really inviting these parts in. Like if they, I used to do this a lot with my neck pain of um imagining like bringing it in for tea. Like, okay, let's have tea. Come sit down. There's a place for you at my table. And then if you'd like to share in the chat, I'm really curious how that was for you guys, what came up for you, what parts you were working with. Actually, one last thing I want to add before I forget is that if any of you have read the book I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. She talks about working with this therapist for her disordered eating, and he would talk a lot about the shame spiral and how when we get into it, we feel the initial thing and then the shame and then the feelings about the having shame and then like Amanda said, shame on shame and then the more shame and the da, 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 and we just keep spiraling. And so how can we not let a slip go into a slide is what her therapist told her, which is so great. It's like, great, I felt mad and then I felt shame about being mad. How can I create space for the anger and maybe the shame too, you know? So whenever you guys are ready, just dropping in the chat what's happening for you.
During the exercise, the part actually felt worse, but I feel more relaxed after, probably because first time doing this kind of work.
Thank you for sharing. I'll say too, these parts are intelligent. And sometimes if we haven't spent a lot of time with them, when we first go to relate to them, they're not like welcoming us with open arms. It's like a friend you haven't spoken to in a long time, and then you're like, hey girl, what's up? And they're like, what the fuck are you doing around here? You know, you got to build it back up.
I felt a slight shift, like an expansion. And someone else says they felt nauseous initially. Softening and making space was easier than moving closer to it for me. I still wanted distance or felt that contraction when trying to move closer. It helped me to feel compassion if I imagined I was an older version of myself.
Great. Okay, awesome. Great shares. I'm going to offer some journal prompts. Or I mean, oh, okay, wait, there's more coming
Oh, we've
in.
got more coming in. Yeah. It was emotional for me. I don't quite have words for it yet. I'm going to sit in it for a moment. And I felt a pain in my chest. My shoulders, back, and arms got tense as a result. As I breathed deeply and opened up, I was able to just focus on the pain in my chest.
Awesome. Okay, beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna move forward now. Thank you guys for sharing. It's so lovely hearing your guys' experiences. I'm gonna offer some journal prompts. So I will send out an email after this with the recording, the YouTube, and the podcast, and I'll put these journal prompts part of that email. Otherwise, just get ready to dictate if you want them now. So this is just to go deeper if journaling is your thing. So the first one is how do you know when you feel shame or feel bad? How do you know when you feel shame or feel bad? What sensations, postures, expressions, etc. let you know that you feel this way? What sensations, postures, expressions, etc. let you know you feel this way? What is the experience within you when you start getting curious about these parts of yourself? What is the experience within you when you start getting curious about these parts of yourself? What would become available to you if you no longer felt ashamed of these parts? Slay. What would become available to you if you no longer felt ashamed of these parts? Even reading that, I feel an opening happening for me. What is your game plan for the next time you feel shame come up? What's your game plan for the next time you feel shame come up? What has helped you historically, or what did you learn in this workshop that you feel would be helpful? What has helped you historically, or what did you learn in this workshop that you feel would be helpful? Okay, I love a good journal prompt. Oh, you're amazing. Okay, Amanda just put them in the chat. What an honor. Okay, thank you. Okay, so last little plug before we move into Q&A. If this work resonates with you and you want to go deeper, there's a few ways you can do it. Number one is my signature program, VENOM. So VENOM, it's a on-demand curriculum, so you do it yourself. It's self-paced, pre-recorded modules on anger, boundaries, the somatic experience of people pleasing, how to support your body in recovering from it. Amanda just put it in the chat. And it's really incredible. It's really good. And number two is one-on-one sessions. I'm currently taking one-on-one sessions. They're very similar to this. It's a blend of somatic experiencing and parts work typically. They're very rich and they're 60 minutes. And then finally, if you're interested in coming to Bali, my Bali retreat in June, this is the second to last day to register. So it closes on Friday at midnight. So if you've been toying with the idea, it's now or never, baby. Or now or next year. I don't know yet where we're going next year, but yeah. So that is all for announcements. I'd like to take a moment for Q&A if you guys have any questions, if anything came up around any of this work or anything beyond. And you can feel free to come off of mute.
Actually, the settings are set so you won't be able to come off of mute, but you
Never mind.
go
Text,
to the bottom and push react and then push raise hand.
do that. Also, Amanda put all the links in the chat. Any questions about this work? Anything that came up for you? Any shares too? I love just hearing like what wisdom arose for you during this experience. It doesn't have to be um, a groundbreaking thing, just anything that arose for you that you'd like to share.
And if you're trying to raise your hand and it's confusing, you can just put in the chat that you want me to unmute you.
You feel free to put things in the chat as well.
I like the imagery of inviting your bad part to tea. I imagine giving them a hug. Yeah. I enjoyed how we talked about reframing negativity in such a positive way.
So, I do think that when we're able to integrate these parts, it really takes the charge off of them too. Where, like, if someone, like I said, if someone's like, Kallie, you're such a bitch, I'm like, no, yeah. And obviously, there's different contexts for that, but I think the idea is it taking the sting away because we're not already relating to that part in a negative way.
We have a question. How do you keep from spiraling when you initially have an intense reaction to allowing the feeling?
I'm gonna look at that. Can you say more on that? Do you want to come off of mute? You don't have to, but tell me more. Like, you mean that initial softening, you felt a kickback from that?
I can't come off of mute, but for example, when you try to soften and then some other intense feeling comes up all of a sudden,
Okay, that's a great question.
do you keep allowing it or do you pivot?
So, what comes up for me when I think of that is in a lot of times in parts work, um, in more traditional parts work, if you start to go towards a part that is exiled or not really integrated, sometimes protector parts will step in. This can look like a feeling of like, I mean, I've experienced this as like nausea. All of a sudden, I'll get really sleepy. I'll feel just like really uneasy or like, oh, there's something in the way. Like, I can't access that part. And that's from my experience, these, yeah, like protector parts that are like, we're not ready to go towards that. They definitely don't want to be bypassed. So I would say if that is coming up for you, if you attempt to soften and you're feeling this kickback of maybe a new part coming in and being like, whoa, we're not ready for that. How can I turn then my awareness? There's different ways you could go. There's no right or wrong. I would say the only wrong way would be like being mean to that part that's trying to come in or completely bypassing it. But I would say the two ways that are coming up for me is number one, turning my awareness to that part and getting curious about that part. Like, what are you scared of will happen if I soften around this? You can really ask it questions. There's like scripts that you can look up online that inquire about what are you protecting me from? What do you think would happen if you didn't maintain this or step in or protect? What do you need from me to feel safe? And what would you rather be doing than this? There's that, or you can put it on a shelf or put it in like a room and come back to it later. But you can't just like completely bypass it. And sometimes if you do attempt to kind of put it on the shelf, because we do this in session too, someone will be working through something and someone will be like, oh my God, I'm feeling this. Sometimes we work with that new thing and sometimes we go, okay, right, I see that new thing coming forward. Is it okay if we put it on the shelf for a moment and we'll get back to that? So there's no bypassing, there's just all at the very least acknowledging and moving to the side. And it's so unique. So it's like, how can I get creative and curious with this work? Great question. That's a really good question. Any other thoughts or questions? I'm really glad you asked that.
I think I missed Allison's comment earlier. She said, I liked hearing others' experiences. In a way, it reminded me that there's no right or wrong way, and my experience is my own. And also, I liked the idea of creating for my feelings, and I really relate to the religious shaming too, Callie. Thanks for sharing that.
So thanks for sharing, Allison. Okay, last 45 seconds for questions. If you have anything, speak now or forever hold your peace. You can always email me, so not forever. But if you have any thoughts you want to
Allison says, how do you deal when you're being mean to yourself for the parts?
can you tell me more, Allison? If you can come off of mute too, that would be awesome.
I can unmute you if you'd like, Allison, but if you. Okay. She wrote in the chat. I notice when I feel anxious or scared, I then feel angry and the shame, and my mind is quick to start being mean for feeling that way.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is like this similar experience, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to what I experienced at the beginning, where if I'm feeling that anger coming forward or that impulse of anger and to be angry and to express, and then I feel that shame come in, that like shame, freeze response come and dampen. Is that what you're referring to, that dynamic? And if so, what is coming up for me is just similar to what we experienced of the softening. There's um getting curious. I know that sounds really simple, but it's like getting curious towards whatever is happening in the body. So, one thing that I've noticed that helps is instead of saying, "Oh, I'm feeling really anxious," going, "Wow, my body is feeling really anxious and scared right now." And I'm also noticing that my body's feeling really angry and ashamed about being scared. So it creates a little bit of separation from like me, who I am, and my body. And so then we can start to tend to the body of like, what does my body need right now? And we don't even have to really get into why I'm feeling anxious or scared. That's definitely helpful. Um, like, why am I feeling this way? But what does my body need? How am I experiencing this? And what does my body need to support it? Maybe it's more like resistance and can't get into my body. Oh, so are you, okay, just so I understand, it would be so helpful if you could come off of mute to do this, but if not, that's okay. So you're saying like you feel like you can't access what's in the body? Okay. So that happens. That's okay. That is something that we see a lot is people don't have access to what's going on in the body, or maybe things are so intense and overwhelming in there. It's like my body's not a happy place. I don't want to spend time in there. And when I start to go there, I kind of get kicked out because it's so intense. That is totally okay. Let me just take a moment and see. So, what's coming up for me is that if the if the inside of the body's experience sensationally is a lot, we can start to get curious about the periphery of the body. So like the periphery, like the the borders. Like, how does it feel for my hands to touch each other? What does it feel like for my body to be sitting in this chair? And what's my body's relationship like to gravity? Kind of like we did at the beginning. What is it like for right now? I'm sitting and I have a blanket on my legs. What is it like to feel the blanket on my legs? So we're not going internal to the body's experience of like, we're just like, what's happening around the body? So that's one way to start to almost develop this relationship to the body where we're getting curious about its experience, or even really simple things. Like we don't have to um, go towards activation if the activation is a lot, but how do I know that I'm thirsty? How do I know that I'm hungry? How do I know that I need to pee or go to the bathroom? How do I know I'm cold? How do I know I'm hot? Like really basic, just like relationally creating that channel to the body of how can I just get curious about my body sensations? Yeah, starting small. Okay, great. All right, awesome. Well, thank you for the questions, you guys. It really enriches it when y'all share your thoughts throughout and then also ask questions at the end. So, all right. Well, that is all for today. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, you can email me and my team at support@kalliesomatics.com. And thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and week. Thank you guys.